So your favorite quarterback, Super Bowl quarterback, MVP, all the amazing things, Mr. Tom Brady, has launched his own newsletter called 199. Well, I wanted to know, were you subscriber number one?
I was not. I did not. I am not a subscriber to Mr. Brady's newsletter. That is.
You didn't just jump right out there? I thought for sure when you heard that Tom Brady had his own newsletter, like you were just going to be standing in virtual queue.
Yeah,
for that stuff.
To quote the great man, it's going to be a pass-a-thon. He's the worst. He's the worst commentator ever. It's going to be a pass-a-thon. Every 2 sentences, he always says, it's going to be a pass-a-thon.
Well, that's just because you hold him up to Tony Romo standards, and you just can't do that.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Just remember, everybody has a story to tell. Tell it well. Of this old marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This old marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose. Welcome to episode number 466 for Friday, February 14th, 2025. It's Valentine's Day. It's Love Day. Will you all be my Valentine? And with me, as usual, is my pal, my colleague, and a guy who definitely understood the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl show, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
What up, Buttercup?
What's up?
What's up?
Did you watch the Kendrick Lamar thing and the Super Bowl and all of that?
I watched a lot of the Super Bowl, more than I normally do, because
okay.
we got
nothing else to do.
I got nothing else to do. We were by the pool. We had the television on. It was just wonderful. And I gotta first admit that I've never been a listener of Kendrick Lamar music. But the one thing I know,
very occasional listener of Kendrick.
Very occasional. Not a neighbor. Not a neighbor.
No,
not like Drake.
Although Drake was a neighbor. He's not a neighbor anymore, apparently.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I remember when Drake was trying to buy the entire block.
That's right. He did. Would not try. He did. He did buy an entire block, a whole cul-de-sac here in my neighborhood. And then he was It was funny because that was when he was beefing with Kanye. And they were literally lived down the street from each other. But then he left. I don't know where he lives now, but he's not there anymore. But I believe he still owns the house.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
I thought the choreography was fantastic. I got the whole PlayStation game thing at the end. Is there was like, oh, now it makes a little bit of sense. I didn't really, I read one or two of the articles about some of the meaning behind it. But the only thing that the one thing musically I like his voice a lot. Like I like the way he raps, and I just couldn't hear it enough. Like I wanted them to turn his volume up.
Sound is always it's never good. I mean, the only good sound I've ever heard at a Super Bowl that, as I understand it, because I wasn't there live, but actually played on television. It's so hard to do that. To get the sound right on television and live in a stadium like that was Prince. Prince had, but you would expect that, right? I'm sure he, sort of worked that out. But yes, the sound was bad. But boy, the number of metaphors in that where it was like, I had to go back and I watched it like 3 times to sort of catch everything. The Serena Williams thing. Samuel Jackson opening it up, all of that stuff was just, it was incredible. It's just, it was a message. There was a message there for sure.
That's, what was interesting too is, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but they topped out at whatever, 137 million at the highest point, but 133 or 134 million watched the show, Kendrick Lamar's show. So, they didn't lose anybody. And they, they're higher than average. So there's something to be said there. He's definitely a draw.
I heard they had a huge drop off in viewership after the halftime show. Because it wasn't even a game. Let's be
this because it was 72-6 at that point. That's probably the the bigger reason.
The Chiefs picked the wrong weekend to stop knowing how to play football. I mean, holy smokes.
Well, I was right on my Eagles prediction, but I was wrong on the score because I said 31-28 Eagles.
Everybody thought it was going to be close. Everybody thought it was going to be close, whether you thought the Chiefs were going to win or the Eagles were going to win. You did not expect the ass whipping that they got. I mean,
what I liked about, I would have liked a closer game, but I liked the fact that the Eagles won on every level. They outcoached Andy Reid and that team. They outplayed them. You could see that there were just better athletes on the Eagles team, in my opinion. That's just, I've never seen. I've seen a lot of Super Bowls. I've never seen a team get completely shut down in the first half. They weren't even able to move the ball. 23 total yards in the first half. 23
total yards in the first half, right? Something.
Yeah, for Kansas City.
It was absolutely insane. Yeah. The biggest problem, of course, was they just had no protection. Mahomes had no protection. It was.
I've never seen him. He actually he would go around and then he would try to do it again, and he would try to go around this way, and then sooner or later he got caught.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel really bad for him.
Really just stepped up. It was amazing.
Yeah, if you were going to give an MVP out, I know, and Jalen Hurts totally deserved it, but if you were going to give an MVP out, you would give it to the Eagles defense.
I think that's honestly, I think that's where it should have gone, because look, Hurts played a good game. He played as good a game as he plays, right? And but they don't ask. Because of Saquon and because of the things that they have, he doesn't have to do that. But he doesn't have to play hero ball at all. And so he was very sharp. He was very accurate. The one thing that the Chiefs were able to do was sort of shut Saquon down, but so it was. But at that point, they had such the playbook was so open to them. It was just impossible for the Chiefs defense. They were just on them forever.
Well, realistically, the defense for the Eagles scored 14 points.
Right.
The touchdown, the pick six,
yeah.
And then they got the other one at the 9-yard line or whatever.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Is this the end of the dynasty? It might be the end of the dynasty. That might be it.
I had predicted that that was one of my predictions earlier in the. Of course, I got it completely wrong, but in our NFL prediction show, I had predicted that the Chiefs would not return to the Super Bowl because it was the end. They had finally run out of gas. I think they had just. You think about the amount of football that team has played over the last 3 years. They've made the playoffs
more than anyone
or the championship every year for the last 3-4 years. And they've just played so much football at this. They're and it showed, right? They're just they're exhausted.
Well, good news for this old marketing listeners is we won't be talking about football until the draft.
Wow, at least until draft day. Until April.
Like late April, and so we'll get a little break. Talk about something else. God knows what.
So, what about the ads? Did you see some ads that?
You know what? It wasn't one of the higher rated ones, but for some reason, I like that Harrison Ford Jeep ad. His comment at the end is like, I prefer Jeep, even though my name is Ford. I'm like,
his delivery on that was just pitch perfect. The way he delivered all of that stuff.
If you were gonna pick one of the most likable people, to do your ad, I think that, and who doesn't like Harrison Ford? You just love the guy and all ages. So, I really like that one. And that's I don't know. What stood out for you? What was the big ad?
The headline, my headline on the ads is that none of them, right? This is where I think we were really wrong, because we had predicted that the viewership would be down and all that kind of stuff. And sure enough, it was record setting in terms of the number.
So what were the numbers? It was
127 million, I believe, is the streaming plus broadcast number. So, which is, it's huge. It's just plain.
It's huge. It's the biggest.
It's a huge number. Did you? Oh my gosh. Did you, not to get political, but they opened up with Trump on the plane as he was flying into New Orleans. And this is where he signed the oh man, it's just I can't even do it without laughing. He's on the plane and they're flying over the Gulf of Mexico, and that's where he signs the proclamation for making it the Gulf of America, right? And he turns as he's sitting down to the desk. He goes, "We're gonna now sign the proclamation for the Gulf of America." And then he turns to his aide, who's standing right next to him, and goes, "Please define that word." So she goes, "Oh man,
I totally missed that."
And so she says, "Okay, it's the proclamation to turn it into the Gulf of America." And then he signs the proclamation and says, this is the Gulf of America Day. He said, "It's even bigger than the Super Bowl, but we're now celebrating the Gulf of America Day." It's like, oh man. If it weren't so horrific, it would be a comedy. But
it was striking though, because as I'm driving around Key West, I have maps on, so it just it just shows me and it says right there, Gulf of America.
Yeah, well, that's
like,
only
wow, that happened quickly.
It's only for us, thankfully, but yes.
Yeah, I guess you can call it whatever you want.
But anyway, coming back to the ads, my headline is I didn't love any of them really. I wasn't super passionate. The only one and we'll talk about this when we get to winners and losers, was the OpenAI ad. I thought was quite effective. Their new CMO, they have a new CMO at OpenAI, and they finally have somebody there who gets marketing. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Well, now's the time to grab market. Yeah, now's the time to grab market share. So I mean, but it was funny. Like we were watching it, and we were watching with my friend Jim, and immediately when the OpenAI ad started to come on, he said, "That's ChatGPT." Like, got it immediately, which I thought was like, yeah, it's pretty good. It was ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what the one thing that stuck out to me were the amount. I guess the amount of beer ads and the ones that are always rated as the best.
Well, the Budweiser ad was lovely. The Budweiser with the little baby horse and all that. That was cute.
Yes. Here's what that category is just getting crushed right now. I mean, it seems like year over year, beer sales. I mean, there's more competition than ever before, right? You've got there was another drink. Was it not Olipop, but the other probiotic one did an advertisement, but it just seems like that the beer category is just not going to get any better. So they're just throwing ad money, just trying to get whatever pickup they can.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. I mean, the beer category full stop is not doing well, which has little to do with the way that they're doing advertising. It just has much more about, the like you said, the fragmentation of the market, and also a decrease in people drinking beer, so they're trying to get young people to drink beer, and they're having a tough time with it.
You've been drinking the cannabis beer? You've tried that?
Okay, so I have been in an effort to reduce my alcohol intake. I have been drinking the cannabis juices.
Okay,
as it's not really a mocktail, but it's so. But yes, and quite enjoying it, by the way.
Really, are they lovely, as you would say? They're lovely.
They are lovely. They are lovely. There's a few that are out there. Pabst makes one.
Really?
Yeah, they actually make one that's quite good. It's not a beer. It's kind of a juice sort of thing, ginger ale kind of thing.
That just doesn't seem right. I mean,
but it's nice.
I would think that
it's nice. It's nice.
A Pabst cannabis beer, you've got to be in the bathroom like for hours.
It's not a beer. It's like a ginger ale, or they have a few flavors like raspberry and stuff like that. And
raspberry Pabst cannabis, that's on brand.
Like sparkling sodas, you can get a root beer. I think you can get.
I haven't seen those.
Yeah. Well, you have to get them in. I mean, is it legal in Ohio?
Yes. I don't know about. Yeah, it was just recently legalized. Gotcha. And now it's not in Florida, but it is in Key West, which is interesting.
Oh, nice. You should get one. You should get a couple. I'm just trying. They are lovely. I will tell you.
There is cannabis infused everything down here. You can get cannabis infused chicken. You get cannabis and whatever you want.
There's the CBD infused, and then there's the THC infused. So CBD not going to do anything for you, right? It's it's just not going to.
You want THC?
If you want any effect at all, you want the THC one. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been a long time for me. I don't know if I can handle it. I really don't.
Get yourself a couple of gummies and go, my friend.
Jeez, I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of gummies, but they're all vitamins. So
Well, yeah,
I
there's
guess-
that too. But I mean, you can look at them like vitamins anyway.
So what do you read into? Why were we so off with the viewership of the game? What do you think?
I think because of the all the pre-hype around how nobody cared. And there was so much coverage around how nobody really cared about the Super Bowl this year, because of the teams, because of the Super Bowl, whatever it is. There was a lot of, it seemed like there was a lot of apathy, and as it turns out, there isn't a lot of apathy. I mean, people still look at it very much like it doesn't matter who's playing; it's just a big spectacle thing.
It's the moment, last remaining moment.
I think we also underestimated the how much people needed a break from the rest of the news, right? I think people were desperately searching for something else to pay attention to.
It seems to be, and I'm trying to think of another event in the United States that brings everyone together on one day to watch something.
Yes, great.
Besides Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I can't think of another event that would bring us all together.
Yeah.
So here's my take on. So we've been in Key West. We've been trying to catch as many sunsets as we can.
Yeah.
And we were wondering, we were headed out there. We did catch the sunset. It was like at 6:15 or something. And we're like, I wonder if there's going to be less people because people are getting ready for the Super Bowl. And there were significantly less people.
Yeah.
Like absolutely, you could definitely notice right away. And I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, people are hunkering down in their locations to watch the game.
Yeah.
So
people are watching. People are
forget this amazing thing called the sun. Let's watch some beer ads.
Yeah, let's watch beer ads. Let's watch some beer ads.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
all right, we got a show. We've got a show to get to here. We've got some news. It was a light news week for sure, given everything else that was going on in the world of marketing and media. But there's some big stories here. BuzzFeed is going to launch a social media platform. Nobody's talking about this, but we will. It seems like it's kind of big deal, but we'll see what happens there. Then we'll talk about the paywall dilemma. Wonderful article from our friend and family Simon Owens and his wonderful Substack, talking about gating content and where the paywall is, and some maybe some not so surprising or surprising results there. And then consumers are craving more uplifting content than ever, is paying off Joe's prediction of end of last year about more nostalgic content, more uplifting content. Boy, is that ever the truth that I'm seeing sort of anecdotally. Then we'll get to our winners and losers, and I will talk a little bit about OpenAI's Super Bowl ad. Joe will talk about some of the observation. I guess you're actually doing some kind of work in Key West.
Well, no, honestly. So we're sitting outside enjoying the lovely weather. I have a beverage in hand, and I'm like, what am I going to talk about on this old marketing? I mean, I really do think about you.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay. Right.
I'm trying to.
All right.
So anyways, I have some thoughts.
And you have.
I have thoughts.
I'm just going to hazard a guess that they don't call them consortiums in Key West. Nobody uses the word consortium.
You're old
word,
when
please.
you use the word consortium. It's like whoopsie. It's like whoopsie daisy. Like nobody uses that anymore. Whoopsie daisy. Whoopsie daisy. There's a consortium.
We'll get to our Rants and Raves section, where I'm going to talk about an interview with the Welch's CMO and what their strategy seems to be for the coming year. And Joe's going to talk about book blurbs and what's going to happen with book blurbs in the future. It's a really interesting,
like a thriller. Yeah.
It's
going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing. All right. Pull up your favorite cannabis drink and let's get going with our first story here, which comes courtesy of Axios. And the headline is BuzzFeed will launch a new social media platform called BF Island. I'm just, the fact that they missed BFF, right, it really makes me sad. But BF Island it is. And the article opens up by saying BuzzFeed is creating its own social media platform as a joyful alternative to the addictive social media feed, says Jonah Peretti, the CEO of BuzzFeed. Axios goes on to say, if the experiment works, it will put BuzzFeed in a totally different kind of business where it's primarily a tech company and a kind of social media company, Peretti says. Given the state of digital media publishing, building something like that inside of the company could be an exciting new growth area, a new chapter, he says, putting us in a more exciting category. He's used the word exciting a lot there. All right.
It's very exciting.
He's excited.
Didn't he write? He wrote like 5,000 words to his employees or something like that.
That's right. Yeah,
So
there's a whole blog post where
700 were exciting.
How excited it is. Yeah. He says the experiment would allow BuzzFeed's public market investors to get behind a speculative but potentially lucrative opportunity that's normally only afforded to venture capitalists. Like most consumer AI apps, BF Island. Oh boy, just a bad name. Anyway, BF Island plans to have a freemium model where simple features are available for free and more advanced features are available with a subscription. For now, the company is leveraging a small team of existing BuzzFeed employees to build BF Island, says Peretti. And it goes on, the article basically talks about how it will be built specifically to spread joy, to enable playful creative expression. Let's see how far that works out for you. Peretti has, they sort of end the article by saying he's repeatedly shared his vision for the future of digital publishing by taking big swings at the expense of consistency with BuzzFeed's business model as his experiment. And then it goes on to show their EBITDA, their financial results, which have been very interesting over the last few.
It's a good word for it. Yeah, interesting is a good word.
So I don't know. What do you think? Are we ready? Do we need another? I mean, we've had 3 new social networks in just the last year. So what do you think?
So it reminds me of a couple things. First of all, it reminds me like Kodak back in their heyday when they realized the film was going away, grasping and desperate to find a business model. So that's the first thing I thought of. And the second thing I thought of as it comes to new social networks was LO. Remember LO?
Yeah, I do remember LO. Yeah.
And we're all like, oh, uplifting. It's going to be great. It's got the smile. Everything's wonderful. We all signed up and then goodbye, LO. Yeah. I think this is just pure desperation. I would love to see BuzzFeed find a business model, but as we've talked about forever, the general media business model is terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Yes.
And they're in the middle of it going against the big boys. And just, I don't think they're going to be. So, okay, yes, another one. I'm under the assumption that this announcement will happen. Some people will sign up. It'll get some reviews. It'll go downhill. And then Jonah will come out with another announcement. Because this isn't the first time. BuzzFeed did this when they said, oh, we're going to replace a whole load of our writers with AI, and that was big deal at the time because nobody had really come out at that point. What was this, like a couple of years ago, where they said we are absolutely going to replace our writers with AI, and then the stock jumped and everything was great for 2 days. So I don't know. Is there anything here? Do you think? I don't know.
Well, there maybe is the word I would use. I think about it like, I'm sure he got this pitch from his folks, and maybe he was the one who originated, but he got the pitch as sort of a, I'm plenty sure there are PowerPoints, an abundance of PowerPoints, let's put it this way, that speak to the business case of building this thing. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with, by the way, folks, the clock on TikTok is still ticking, right? And nothing has been done, right? So if nothing happens in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about TikTok here again, dying out.
Yep.
And there's been, crickets from that corner. The lack of sort of the fragmentation, let's put it that way, fragmentation of Twitter /X. Blue Sky had a big bump and is now seemingly plateauing. Yeah, sort of. Threads feels like it's plateauing a lot, or maybe even declining a little bit as Blue Sky drinks a little bit of its milkshake. It feels very much like X is like just become sort of, it's now reduced to the least common denominator. Let's put it that way. And it's sort of like, if you're on X, you're not leaving, right? There's nothing that can be done that can make you leave.
Yep.
And so with all that happening, it does feel like there's an opportunity for a disruptive entrant that can figure out a way to differentiate. Because if you look at Blue Sky, you look at Threads, it's kind of it's the alternative alleyway for than X, right? So if X is basically just Truth Social with a little more people, and Threads and Blue Sky is sort of like all of the expats out of Twitter. And so if you look at the conversations that are happening there, they are very much aligned against political spectrums. And so it looks like there may be room for something. I don't know that BuzzFeed is the one to do it, right? And certainly BF Island is just an awful brand name, and maybe it changes. I don't know, but it's just
it is an awful brand name, but that's not what's going to do it. They can name it at something amazing.
Yeah. Well, I guess what it needs is somebody.
Tom Brady.
I guess my point being, it would need to be somebody else other than Jonah and BuzzFeed doing this for me to go, yes, there's a real opportunity here. Like, is BuzzFeed the company to do this? Probably not, right? I don't see BuzzFeed as sort of that hip brand that the kids are all going to go, ooh, let's get our heads wrapped around BuzzFeed, right? I don't. It feels a little stale, I guess, is to me. And so I can't see them being edgy enough or cutting edge enough, even with the sort of under point of which I love, the idea of joyful content, fun content, etc., which is just a hard thing to maintain on any social media network. And so I can't see I can see the, like as a singular PowerPoint presentation go, yeah, I get it. I get why you'd want to do something. I see the opportunity, but after seeing that PowerPoint, my conclusion would be, but we're not the ones to do it. It's not our story to tell.
Well, in this environment too, if it was a different environment, you might think there was more of an opportunity, but now is the time when the big get bigger. Like the big social platforms will, you don't have any antitrust concerns at this point. Right. You can get as big as you want. You're going to see some of these networks get bought out by the big players. So we're going to come out of this thing in 2028, and you're going to see across the board with Google and Microsoft and even Twitter, which I completely, with what has happened in the last 12 months, I'm bullish on Twitter now. Like, I think that they're in a really, really good position for the long haul with what's going on. I know you disagree, but I don't see that being any less influential. I don't think it gets any less influential. Like, it's only more influential. I think over the next few years.
I think if you're suggesting that Twitter stays at status quo, I would agree with that. In other words, I think everything that's been drained out of Twitter has drained out of Twitter, right? Yep. At this point, if you look at the X platform and you go, okay, it now is what it is, right? And so if the celebrities that are there, they're not leaving for whatever reason, right? The people that cover news are there, and they're not leaving for any reason. Yep. And so the people that have left, and the people that are there are going to stick around and be there. And so I don't see that it grows, and I don't see that it declines much more than it's already declined. Elon has already filed suit against advertisers, which is just completely ridiculous, saying basically you have to advertise with us, which is just, is just a silly lawsuit. But
it might work. I've seen silly lawsuits work recently.
Yeah. And the universe of things that are going on right now with him, it's like, that's just that's item number 762, so does it go anywhere? No. Does it change anything? No. Does it, is it going to actually do anything? No. It's all going to stay the same for the foreseeable future. So, the biggest thing I could see would be the merging, you saw that Elon put in a bid for OpenAI,
97 billion and change.
Yes. And Sam Altman basically came back and said, oh, no, thanks. But we will buy X for 9 billion. So it's like,
that's so funny. Hey, Elon's trying to corner the market.
Yeah,
of course. That's what you do.
He will not be successful in that endeavor. It's basically just a slow down tactic. He's just basically.
We'll see. My quick prediction on the BF Friends thing is that it never makes it out of alpha.
Agreed. We'll
never talk about it again.
Yeah. I think we will talk about it again because they will announce the launch of it and the availability of it, and there will be a big sort of news item around it. Unless because they do their financial results in March, I think it is. They do their quarterly earnings, and if they have a really bad quarter, I could see it never getting to anything. But if they do have a decent quarter, then I could see them having a big news announcement and saying, "Hey, it's now available," and you can go download it from the App Store and blah blah blah. And
they'd have been better off doing a cannabis drink and calling it BuzzFeed.
There you go. Oh, see, there you go again. That's really good. That's actually really smart.
They already have the network. They have. Just start putting ads everywhere. You just work on distribution.
There are some days. That I look up to you as a branding master, and today is one of those days. That is
most of the time it's ID10T, but
yeah, there you go.
I have my moments.
ID10T. What's the cereal thing that you have? The cereal bar?
Oh, Cereal. Yeah, Siri. No, it's not just cereal. It's Cereal. It's like, come on up, get all your cereals at once. Mix a little Golden Grams and
that's no
Fruity
good.
Pebbles.
That one's no good.
Okay.
Hey, so speaking of great brands, let's pay some bills.
All right.
Do you feel like your leads never lead anywhere? And you're making content that no one sees, and it takes forever to build a campaign? Well, that's why we built HubSpot. It's an AI-powered customer platform that builds campaigns for you, tells you which leads are worth knowing, and makes writing blogs, creating videos, and posting on social a breeze. So now, it's easier than ever to be a marketer. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Are you ready to do the hustle? No, that's not a 1970s reference. What I mean is a great podcast. It's the Hustle and Flowchart podcast with Joe Fear, and it's all about how to build a business so it gives you the freedom and fuel for your life. Join Joe as he discusses systems, mindset tweaks, reframes, and strategies for entrepreneurs, and really anyone, to enjoy the process of being in business and having fun. This isn't for the entrepreneur looking to build $1 billion business, rather, somebody who's looking to build systems that work. You can find the Hustle and Flowchart podcast wherever you follow your favorite pods.
That is good music.
It's fun.
I mean,
it's totally fun. It really is fun. I really like it. Yeah.
If it was an AI disco, it would be the first song played. AI disco.
Here's what I would. I don't know if this is a job or not, but it's certainly a fun task for someone. Like if you're in the hotel business and part of your job is to provide the background music that plays in the restaurant, or the music that is in the bar, just generally speaking, playing in the background, or the lobby or wherever background music needs to be, you could have a lot of fun building a awesome AI generated playlist to make that like fun and cool and interesting. I think it would be
I think that's absolutely a thing, because there's a person, especially in Vegas, but you go into if you go to the Saint here, which is a hotel in Key West, you walk in and there's a distinct scent. You have people that designed the scents of these places.
Oh, yeah, I know a guy who does that. I know a guy whose company does that. Who does the scent design, right?
Sniffer LLC.
Something like that, right? I mean, where they actually put in sort of that distinctive smell that you smell in hotels or stores, all that kind of thing. And
I think you're onto something there. I think that's your next thing.
No, I mean, there's no moat there. Like, if, all you're talking about is basically
no moat.
There's nothing differentiating in that, but it would be a cool job for somebody in the hotel to have to actually do to put together that fun playlist, right?
Yeah, the sniffer company should probably do, because they're looking at everything that you walk in and the feeling that you get. They should say, "Oh yeah, you can add on our music package,"
right? Which is
for
weird because it's all free, but or free. But yeah. Anyway,
it's the curation of it.
It's the curation.
Yeah. It's not that it can be done.
We are the Rick Rubin of background music. Yes, is that we are.
I there's not many people like Rick Rubin.
No,
That doesn't play an instrument and walks in and just says he's like in Tom Petty's studio, saying, add some bongos.
Yeah, but that's it.
And then it makes a difference.
He's self-aware about it, right? Because in that 60 Minutes interview, they say, "Hey, do you play an instrument?" And he goes, "No." And he goes, "Do you know music at all?" And he goes, "No, I don't know any." He goes, "Maybe a little bit." And he's like, "Then why do people hire you?" And he's like, "Because I have great taste." It's like, okay. And that's not untrue. I mean, that's exactly it, right?
I think Rick Rubin should start a shoe line.
Okay.
That's what I think.
And what's it called?
I don't know. No shoes.
No. Okay.
No shoes. Whatever. It's like, because Rick doesn't like to wear shoes anywhere. But if you have to wear shoes, you want to wear no shoes. By Rick Rubin.
You should have stopped at BuzzFeed. Yeah. All right.
But if you drink enough BuzzFeed, you're gonna want to buy some nose shoes. I'm sorry.
It's true.
It's off the rails. All right, what do we got next?
We got another article from Simon Owens, who is just on a tear of late. This article is called "The Paywall Dilemma," and it opens up by saying, Simon opens up by saying, "I've always been astonished when publications hide their entire articles behind a paywall. It's not uncommon at all to land on a page and see a little more than a headline, and it just seems intuitive to me that you'd convert at a higher rate if you get someone to spend a few extra seconds on that page. Apparently, that intuition is completely wrong," he says, "at least according to this study," and he links to a study from Neiman Lab, which will link obviously to the article in the show notes, and then you can link to the study there. "A lot of news consumers consider the headline and lead to be more than enough information, and so therefore are less likely to convert into paid subscribers after reading them." Well, that doesn't surprise me, by the way, because, people don't read the articles anyway. Like, you post it on social media and people don't read the articles before they start commenting. But anyway, the study's authors, he's now quoting the Neiman Lab study by saying the study's authors examined how each teaser element contributed to a visitor's likeliness to subscribe. They found that decks, stand-ins for those across the pond, and intros decreased the odds of a visitor subscribing by 86.3% and 72.2% respectively. Results for an image and a blurred article preview were not statistically significant. Readers who see information-dense nuggets like leads and decks, the authors write, may feel they've learned all they need to know in front of the paywall and don't need to subscribe to learn more. Fascinating. By the way, do you know this term decks? I had not.
No. Well, I mean, a deck in like a print magazine. Yes, I guess it's the same thing. It's like the intro to the article.
Is that what they call it?
It's a deck. Yeah.
And anyway, he really continues and says, "I've noticed a lot of Substack newsletters take the opposite approach. They'll give free subscribers several paragraphs of text before the paywall kicks in. Hell, that's the strategy I use. You'll notice that you need to scroll down pretty far in my newsletter before you encounter a paywall. For me, I view it as a trade-off. Sure, by burying my paywall so low, I'm decreasing my conversion rate, but by giving so much content away for free, I'm increasing the chance that my free subscribers will recommend my newsletter to others." And it goes on to talk about some other things real quick, but that's kind of it. So I'm curious because I think this plays into B2B marketing as well with gating content. But what's your take on this, first of all?
I was a little bit surprised as well, because I didn't think that if you just got the headline that anyone subscribe. I just thought it was just frustration. I'm never going there again. Yeah, but apparently
that's the way I feel. By the way, I like when I see a Washington Post article, I'm not subscribed. I am subscribed to the New York Times. I am not subscribed to the Washington Post. And every time I see a Washington Post link now, I just don't click on it because I know that I'm going to hit it. Same with Business Insider.
I do that with Business Insider. I go, I hate you, Business Insider. Yeah, right. Stop it. Yeah. You ruined my life. Yeah. So it seems like there's a choice. If you're really going for subscription in some way, you can say, okay, if I let a couple paragraphs go and get the gist of the article, there may be sharing. And if I can get my reach out to more people, I will take a smaller percentage of people that convert.
Yeah.
But if you don't care about that, and you're like, oh, I just want, anybody that clicks on it, then you'd say, okay, well, don't show them anything. It's just like, just give them that headline or give them the big box. Like Business Insider gives you the big blue box. And it's like, we hate humanity. Please sign up to Business Insider. pretty much what it says.
Right.
But-
That's basically, yeah. Well, and when I look at that, it always strikes me as odd about why in 2025, both publishers and businesses on the side of gated content look at this as an all or nothing gambit. I can't understand why there isn't more experimentation with basically, let me give you an example. So Ad Age, right? I used to subscribe to Ad Age and now I don't. And I never go visit Ad Age anymore because every single article, doesn't matter if it's yesterday's headline news or a 6-month-old article about something that happened at Cannes, they're all gated, right? You see the first paragraph, the deck, I guess it is, and then you're asked to subscribe. Why is there not experiments to say, what we're going to do if we're Ad Age or Business Insider is to say, for the first few days that a news article hits, it's about subscribers only. And then 5 days later, after the news has passed, we just open it up for.
If you want this article immediately, subscribe. If you want to read it in 2 days, come on back. It'll be free. Kind of thing.
That kind of thing, right? Is exactly right. That's exactly right. Which seems to me to create that sense of digital scarcity. But at the same time, you're actually, basically saying, look, if you want fresh new news, like if you want the hottest off the press and you want to get the insight before anybody else does, that's a reason to subscribe. But otherwise, we're going to make the content available, right? Because we want we want the traffic, we want the engagement, we want especially for those publications that actually advertise too, right? That actually have advertisers as well. It's when you're trying to balance those two models, it would be really interesting to see subscription programs where I subscribe, I get the freshest news, and I get the freshest news with no ads, right? Because of my subscription dollars. And then when they go free, when those articles then go free, now there's ads everywhere and they're available to everybody, right? It's so there's so many different ways to slice and be nuanced about this approach. And B2B marketers have the same thing. I just notice it's either in their resource center or their knowledge center or whatever it is. It's like everything is gated. Case studies are gated. Everything is gated or nothing is gated. And that's the argument they're having. It's like, no, let's take a more nuanced approach to this and let's do it by freshness, by quantity, like how Simon does it, right? You can get the first abstract or the executive summary for free, but the details are behind a gate. All of these are much more nuanced approaches. And we're in a place where we're so, theoretically sophisticated in 2025 about the way that we can use technology to do this stuff. It just, we're just handling it with a blunt force hammer. And it just strikes me as odd.
Well, if you have true differentiation and it is incredible content, you're investing a lot into it, then you have a say that you can gate your content. But if you're covering the information that a lot of the people are covering, good luck with that strategy. You need to open it up because then you have an opportunity because you are the free choice. You are the one, because you might say, okay, I can't get New York Times, but Business Insider, it's not New York Times, but it's okay. You got to open that. I wonder how their model's doing actually, because I never see Business Insider as sort of the place to get the news.
Right. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, and on the B2B side, or B2C where there's gating content, but it's much more prevalent, obviously, on B2B. It's like when I look at that, my first question in sort of the resource center or the knowledge center where everything from case studies to everything is gated is like, what do you think you're getting there? Like, what do you other than a quantity number, like, what do you think you're actually getting? Because people are much more inclined if you're gating everything in this particular way at the start of it. Like you can't even see the webinar until you put in your email address, or you can't even see the article before you give your personal information away. Do you think you're going to get the most accurate information from people, like people who are just looking to buy, learn how to buy something or learn how to be aware of something? No, of course you're going to get mickeymouse@gmail.com, or you're going to get, my famous one is, I have the domain givemethepaper.com and my email address is please@givemethepaper.com. Right. So you're going to get all that kind of nonsense, which just, basically pollutes your first party data, which makes your first party data then less valuable than if you got less of it, but it was more accurate and actually people wanted to give it to you because you're giving so much value away. So it's such a nuanced conversation that I just don't see businesses really having even today.
I would agree. It's not all or nothing. I'd like to see some more things where you don't, like, I don't know how you make it work with a webinar.
Yeah.
Like, so you don't need that information. Maybe you just say, hey, just email only. And then you get 10 minutes in and it's interesting. It's like, hey, you want to watch the rest of this?
Yeah.
We'd like to have your first and last name.
Exactly. That's
a good one.
Right.
Email only. I like that. That would probably work.
That's exactly.
Then you can measure it too, because if you'd say, well, if it's a crappy webinar, we're not going to get the rest of the data. Actually, if you have sponsors, it would compel them and say, hey, this is the process we use. And if you go and you're trying to sell something, you're not going to get people to give the more information you want.
Great point.
So
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And by the way, because we have technology that allows it, progressive profiling, right? In other words, the first time you sign into my resource center, all I want is your email address. That's all I need.
Right.
I don't need the 17 different form fields of what industry you're in, what buying cycle you're in, all I need is your email address. Now, when you come back and you sign up for that webinar, hey, I recognize you because your email address is the same. This time we actually do want your industry because we want to tailor this webinar for your particular industry. And then the next time you come back and you want access to that online class that we offer, well, now I need your first name and last name and physical address because we're going to send you something in the mail that is actually a thank you for signing up. So continually building value and reasons why they want to give you more information is anyway, I get off on a rant on this stuff, but yeah.
But that's the way to do it. And you're right. That's like 20-year-old technology at this point.
I know. It's Valentine's Day. Be my Valentine.
It's interesting that you and I are talking on Valentine's Day. That's just
It says a lot about us.
It says a lot about our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you doing anything special? Yeah, I'm talking to Joe on a podcast.
Yeah.
That's
two grumpy old men. Rah, rah, rah. Okay. Anyway, let's get to our winners and losers here, where Joe and I pick a winner from the last week in marketing or pick a loser from the last week in marketing. And would you like to go first with your?
I'll go first. Mine is just, again, I have a beverage in my hand. I'm looking around. I'm trying to see patterns. I said consortium. Partnership is probably the newer word.
Yeah.
In Key West, you have a lot of businesses that partner together on different things. So even though you can see the sunset in many places in Key West, Mallory Square and those businesses have come together around there to say, hey, this is the place to see the sunset. There's a great harbor walk where a lot of the businesses work.
You have such beautiful.
Yeah, I know you're gonna. I love that movie.
That's true.
But the businesses do the same thing and they partner together. Oh, Super Bowl party! We're all coming together on the harbor walk to do something special.
Yeah.
Great, that's it. And the other thing was, there's bar crawls where these bars are not owned by the same company, but they have somebody that works with them and say, hey, here's the 5 different ones, and there's sort of an interlying thing that works that you want to go on this partnership, or you want to go on this bar crawl, and we're all going to work together. I don't think businesses do that enough. I think that in marketing, we always want to go solo, and we don't think about, okay, who are the other people that we could work together where maybe we don't have certain audiences, or if we come together, we can create an offering that's unique. You and I have talked about this forever with research. You want to get research is very expensive. Good research is really expensive. So maybe you get 3 or 4 people in your industry together and say, hey, let's share the cost of this thing. We'll share the data of this thing, and more people, rising tide lifts all boats, or whatever you want to say. I would like to see, I like that I'm seeing that around Key West, and that's my winner. That's my winner.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's a good partnership for sure. Or consortium.
A consortium, it's called the Sunset Consortium.
There you go.
And they have their own music that's AI created.
There you go. You should start that, the Sunset Consortium down in Key West. That should be a business you should start. I'm sure your lovely wife would be so excited for you to start a business down there.
Oh, it'd be like the mafia going. It's like, okay, you got to be, if your business can see the sunset, you got to pay a little bit. You got to pay the VIG to the Sunset Consortium.
It would be a shame if this business didn't see another sunset. It would be such a shame. Anyway, let me get to my winner here, which is
Yes.
surprisingly OpenAI. So OpenAI has a new CMO, by the way. And I think the effects of that new CMO are starting to be seen. They had their Super Bowl debut with an ad that purportedly was prototyped and sort of storyboarded with AI, but basically was then completed with 100% humans, which is an interesting sort of take on where the reality of AI is in terms of content creation. However, having said that, the ad was, I think, quite good. Very interesting, very, artistic, very creative, I thought. And the most important part to me is there's only one real line in the script, which gets to the end of the ad, and the very last line that, it basically, and it's done by the little talking, a little blob that they have in sort of their mobile device, which it says, "What do you want to create today? Like, where, what shall we create?" And it's like, they finally got it. They finally got the right message and tone. Instead of saying basically, "What can I create for you?" or what all basically outsource your brain and your creativity to, it basically, the entire ad speaks to the human creations. Everything that they feature in the ad are all human creations, with the AI sort of learning it and knowing how to render it and do all these kinds of things. And then the focus is on you. Focus on what do you want to create and the implied is with AI's help, with ChatGPT's help, which is like, finally they get the message and the tone right. They've read the room, right, a little bit better than they certainly have been. And so it's a big winner for me in terms of finally getting the right message and the right tone and the right, out there in the world. I mean, we'll see what it does. I think they're doing extraordinarily well. They certainly don't need my advice, but the point is that I think maybe you'll start to see this become a trend with more of the others, the Googles and the Metas and those that are really fighting for sort of the frontier models and things that are out there. And I think you may start to see that more, but kudos to the OpenAI crew and especially the marketing team and the new CMO there. I'm assuming that it was with that flair, so I'm making that assumption, and probably with whatever agency that they've hired. I don't know that there was an agency involved or not, but I'm assuming there probably was. Kudos to all of them for I thought just a great ad.
I think it's brilliant just from the, we talked about it before. It's a market share land grab right now.
100%.
From what we've learned is that these big LLMs aren't as different from each other as we thought. Enter DeepSeek into the conversation. So I think it's like, now we really need to solidify this business and get as many people on board quickly. I think maybe it's like if AOL continued, had any kind of innovation, that they went so quickly into get that market share, and it worked great for a long time.
That's right.
Maybe you're seeing the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. I think I'm still come back to I'm fascinated with this whole theory that AI and generative AI specifically becomes a bit like the PC, right? Where it just becomes so easy for anybody to do this, right? Because of open source and because of the ways that, the non-differentiation in that market, that it will be very hard without some serious innovation in the space of the applications you build over the top of it, for any company to command any decent market share, right? So, all these companies become the Gateway or the Hewlett Packard or the Compaq of what was the 80s and 90s and early 2000s of this generation. So
or similar search engines.
Yeah,
remember there were 75 search engines at one time.
That's right. And arguably the reason that Google became the number one was certainly not because it was necessarily a better search engine, but they managed to capture the idea of paid and search engine marketing to such a degree that you wanted your content there, right? So as soon as you started gaming for paid then it became sort of the king of search engines.
And monopolizing iOS devices was another good move that they paid billions for.
Well, a number of good moves there. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Let's move to our rants and raves section, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like we're in love on Valentine's Day, or something that makes us feel like I'm not even going there. Did you see that both of them, Taylor Swift and Trump, got boos at the Super Bowl? Everybody was booing everybody. It was
Why?
quite the situation.
Everybody's just unhappy about everything now. It's like,
you had the
the cost of egg. Hey, you see the cost of eggs recently?
Yeah.
It's up 53% year over year. Most of that's happened in the last 3 weeks.
There we go.
So, there you go.
Yeah, you had the Philly fans booing Taylor and Philly fans booing Trump. I think it was
Philly fans boo everybody.
Just Philly fans, really, as it were.
Yep.
All right, you want to go first with your?
Sure.
With your,
so this just came out. Yeah, Simon & Schuster just announced that they are no longer requiring their authors to go out and get blurbs. And for those of you that don't know how it works, when you have a book, you turn it to the back and you will have, okay, I love this book. This said author did so well doing this, this, and this. And generally, if you have a deal with a Simon & Schuster or a publisher, you have to go out, and it can be a tedious process. Now, if you're really, really well known and you got great connections, maybe you can get those easily. But most people, you have to work really hard. You have to send out the draft copies ahead of time. You have to have somebody review it. It's a lot of back and forth. So Simon & Schuster comes out and says, okay, you don't need to do that anymore. And so the author community, for the most part, says, yay, and one less thing, we've got to be on Goodreads. We got to do all the things. There's just so many things we have to do right now. Fine, whatever. It almost seems like no news. I read it as another sign that traditional publishers are in serious, serious trouble and don't add enough value. And they always put their value in, we can produce this thing and get it on the shelves for you. And they didn't put their value in helping with all of marketing. And so this is what they're saying is, we don't want to focus on that, help you focus on that part of marketing. We'll help you focus on this other portions of marketing that's available, which they never do anyways, for the most part, except for the very, very top 1%. So it just seems like finding a publisher today is less accessible. When you do find a good publisher, getting any kind of help from them from marketing is you get little to none. I just don't see the value anymore. Sort of a non-issue, but I just thought more than anything else, it's just another sign that these traditional book publishers are just like, there's just so much we can't keep up. It takes too long. The process takes way too long. Like if you and I want to publish a book and we got the manuscript done, we can have that book out in a month or two.
Yeah.
Well, try 9 to 12 months or longer.
Right.
From the traditional side. So
right.
They're probably trying to cut that down, among other things.
I don't understand it. I mean, it's like it strikes me that now more than ever, having people testifying for your book would be a stronger thing, not a weaker thing, right? In other words, with the rise of human influence and influencers and all of that, having more influencers basically giving you testimonial on the book, it strikes me that that's one and easy. It's like, it's not hard. It's not a hard thing to do. And it's not overly complicated. It just seems like a weird thing to cut, right? If you're looking at,
let's just look at time.
Yeah.
It could add an extra month or two into the process. And can we afford to have that much longer? Unless you want to get like a super rough draft out. Like, I don't know where you're at in the process. Well, so you could get that out there. And then you're also playing favorites too. Yeah, I mean, you're the most well-known authors get the most well-known people showing their book.
Yeah. I mean, look, let's be real honest about book blurbs, right? It doesn't matter what level you are. They didn't read the book. You know what I mean? It's like they're not. Maybe they read the introduction. Maybe they read an abstract of it, a book, of what's going on. Book blurbs are not, people giving serious consideration to a book that they've read and giving serious analysis and thought to it. No, maybe you get that when you have someone write the foreword to your book. If you're writing a business book, you'll have somebody who says, I really want to understand it and write a good, meaningful foreword for you.
Thoughtful about it.
Book. I mean, Professor Kotler, when he wrote bucket list item for me, he wrote the foreword to Content Marketing Strategy. I've never been so nervous in my life. I sent him a rough draft of the book because I'm sending this marketing professor my work. And like, I was freaking out because he was really going to read it. And he really did read it. Because he came back with nice things to say. And, thankfully he didn't overly critique it. And it was amazing. But for the most part, if you're doing a blurb for somebody, it's like you're either getting it from your publisher. Like I've been approached by Kogan Page authors to do blurbs for other Kogan Page authors, some of whom I know, some of whom I don't know. And there's always a question like, would you like to see the book beforehand? And it's like, no, I'm good. Just send me what it's about. Send me the introduction or the.
I trust Robert Rose.
Yeah.
No, you did that. You did that for me. You sent yours over to me, and my blurb was. Remember my blurb back to you was. I wish Robert Rose would write a book.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
No, it's probably non-news.
Well, they're way more fun if you do them that way, right? I mean,
I like that. I like humorous ones that like a play on more of the author's personality or something like that.
Totally. I did that for Tom Webster's book. Tom very kindly asked me to provide a blurb for his book, which I did read the book after it came out. But before the book came out, he asked me for a blurb, and I gave him what I thought was a funny blurb because he's just he's
a gentleman and a scholar.
And he's very funny. He's a very, very funny guy. So anyway, so that's what I think. Okay. I have a
what do you got?
Rave. The link, what we'll put in the show notes here comes from a Marketing Dive. And it's an interview with the CMO of Welch's. Which I'm not necessarily a fan of, but I know the brand very well, of course, and I know them as grape everything, right? Grape jelly, grape soda, grape, the grape thing, right? Purple is sort of, I have this iconic image in my head of the Welch's brand. And he basically goes through in this interview and talks about the new strategy for Welch's. And almost entirely, he basically says, in the summary of the interview is ostensibly him saying, look, paid media is not the place where you differentiate yourself. You differentiate your brand and you create differentiation through providing valuable experiences to people. And so he talks about all these cool sort of stand-up events, these physical events that they're holding, like, taking over a bodega in New York and basically turning it into a Welch's bodega for the day. They're doing the stand-up thing where they have Welch's being given away in the streets. They have all sorts of like co-partnerships with other brands where they're bringing in Welch's into the, like he had a whole thing where they had an event where they basically took out soda and did not just soda, but they did all kinds of drinks with Welch's brands to it, where they, you could try all these drinks. They worked with Dax Shepard and his Armchair Expert podcast. They did, so there's a whole bunch of stuff here, but all of it breaks down into experiences and content marketing, basically just providing valuable, fun, interesting experiences to people. And then getting the coverage on those things is sort of the core of their strategy here as he outlines it. To me, that's just such a big winner in today's marketplace. It's a great way for a smallish brand like Welch's to actually make big waves, as it were. And I just think it's a stupendous idea. So I wanted to rave about it. And so, you can go over and read on Marketing Dive the interview with him, but just kudos to that, to him, and for sort of zeroing in and getting really focused on that kind of idea of events, experiences, and content.
I think the CMO read your book on experiences. I think that's...
Well, I doubt that very seriously, but yes.
I don't know. You'd be surprised. It was probably one of those blurbs on the back that got him to read.
It was your blurb, actually, on the back.
I'm sure it was this book's trash. I hate the color. I hate purple. Should be orange.
Exactly. Exactly. Who was it that there was somebody who did book blurbs where they did that? It was really funny. They threw in a bunch of those sort of, this is the worst book you'll ever read, says anonymous, Yelp user or something like that.
Yes, I like that. I like when they put the bad reviews. You see that around restaurants here, where somebody will put like their worst reviews on
the worst burger
board
you'll
out front,
eat, according to a lady in Santa Monica, right? Yeah,
exactly. Yep. Well, what do you got going on rest of the week?
I'm busy. I'm working on client stuff, which is very nice. It's raining like hell here, so we're super glad to have that here in Southern California.
Amen.
It's kind of a long weekend because President's Day, nobody works for some reason. I'll be working, but it'll be a nice sort of day off. So it's a bit of a long weekend, I guess. How about you?
Yeah, I'm working really hard. Lots of working. Lots of work being done. We've got more friends coming in this week, so I'm just enjoying this amazing, incredible weather.
You got your own little Poligalago down there.
See,
there we go. How we got that?
So let's see. I've been here 13 days, and I've seen 10 sunsets, and I rate them. I rate them all, and I'm like, this one just peeked through the clouds, and it was just miraculous.
Rate my sunset.
It made me feel like I was truly alive.
Yes, well, you should put on your Hemingway outfit and go sit and write the next novel out there.
Oh, I've been going outside stealing the six-toed cats from the Hemingway house.
There you go.
Basically, what I've been doing. All right,
I need a picture of that. I need a picture of you.
I'll get you a picture
novel with some six-toed cats.
Yeah. I'll get you a picture. That'll be the cover of my next book.
There you go. All right, fantastic. Thank you everybody for hanging out. We really appreciate it. We will see you again, of course, next week with another regular show. And until we see you again next week, just remember, everybody, it's your story to tell. Go out there and tell it well, even in this weird environment. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing. Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribed to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.